Margaret, the practical application, the youth, the teens, leveraging technology for good in this case.
It's interesting because my husband, I mentioned to somebody earlier, we travel 250 to 300 days a year, and we get in front of probably 100,000 youth in person every year. Not to mention, obviously, the social media platforms that he's on and the videos that reach them. And, you know, one of the things, listening to Kelly speak, how old do you think the youngest person in the United States is to die by suicide? It's not 5 years old, it's 4. I was shocked to hear this. I was shocked to meet many parents of 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds that died by suicide. So when my husband speaks, runs workshops, and counsels a lot of these kids, I get to witness this. So after several years of realizing that there are not enough resources for youth, I decided to build a platform. So we're not going to get our kids off their phones. They're going to stay on their phone. That's fine. Thankfully, in the state of New York, the kids are no longer on their phones in classrooms, which is, I think, great. However, I think, you know, kids are going to ChatGPT and they're going to TikTok and they're getting advice, therapeutic advice. I don't think we can stop that, not the way that we're allowing them to utilize their phones and their iPads. So what we did was we built an app called Navi that's based in single session intervention, which is a very targeted therapeutic. It is non-diagnostic, it's self-directed, it is digitally delivered. And so we basically are giving kids in the state of New York, states of Nevada, Pennsylvania, New Mexico now, Oregon, and Indiana, California eventually. We're talking to the state of California for the states to roll out these interventions. So the kids, in addition to going to TikTok, in addition to going to ChatGPT, they also have an additional solution that's evidence-based, very targeted therapy. Generative AI is not being utilized in the content because we do not feel that it is safe. We'll leave that to ChatGPT. We don't want that liability. The Columbia is embedded in the app, so we actually have safety guidelines in there and crisis support resources that connect the kids either to 988 or to existing in-person resources within their county and their states. And so this was kind of my attempt to help these kids, because what else is there? As we continue to get in front of the youth, we actually ask them to come and help us build the app, design the app. And there's, you know, it's a saturated market. The youth mental health app, it is completely saturated, but we're the only single session intervention app in the United States. And single session intervention is really interesting. It's an interesting modality, not very popular here in the US yet until we completely move into a value-based healthcare system. Very popular in Europe, very popular in Canada and in Australia because they have a more socialistic healthcare approach. So the value-based healthcare system is focused on outcomes. So more outcomes, more effective outcomes, less cost. So there is a 75 to 85% drop off after the first therapy session. That's traditional therapy. So this particular modality actually captures the patient or the user in the first session. Guarantees a solution, guarantees accountability, and then we gamify it so the kids are coming back to use it. And so this is our first year out and we'll see how it works, but utilizing AI can be really effective and safe, and that's how we're using Navi.
And I know you also do a lot about storytelling. And storytelling is fascinating to me as a neuroscientist because of the ability for people to have a better comprehension and understanding and relate to things, information with a story. Tell us about that.
Sure. Stories are 22 times more memorable than facts, period. So as I mentioned earlier, my husband is a Golden Gate Bridge jump survivor. Many of his keynotes are obviously about his story. His story is compelling, et cetera, but when you share a story that is basically about triumph over adversity and gives people hope, you actually are embedding these systems in their brain. There's data to support. They remember these stories. And a lot of the kids that we talk to, that he speaks to early on, and he's been doing this for 20 years now, they've graduated from college. A lot of them are therapists, a lot of them are psychiatrists, and a lot of them are in the behavioral health care field, behavioral health tech founders, and they go right back to him. They send him messages and they say, I'm doing this because of you, because you came to my 4th grade class. You came to my 9th grade class, and I'll never forget your story. I was fine then, but I went through a divorce 10 years later, or I went through some sort of trauma. Your story saved my life. And it's just one story. So we saw that impact. And yes, obviously his story is low-hanging fruit for us, because that's the story that we have that is effective. But I honestly believe anybody that has a story of hope and triumph over adversity can save a life.